Welcome. This is a demonstration of GameSim's Conform, and we're going to be demonstrating how you can use Conform to procedurally texture and scatter models on the terrain skin. So I'm zooming down into Mount Rainier, and I just have the imagery draped on the terrain skin. And let me go ahead and turn off the imagery so you can just see the elevation model. And let me turn the imagery back on. And now I'm going to switch over to the Procedural Terrain Processing mode, PTP. And by default, it's just going to have barren land all over the area because we haven't given it any information about the terrain surface. Let me switch the base material from that barren land to something that's just more appropriate for this general area. So I'm going to switch it over to mountain vegetation. And so that's going to make everything mostly grass and trees, with the exception of the high slope areas. Those get mapped to a rocky mountain with no trees. Let's say, for example, I wanted to switch to have snow caps at the top there. So I'm going to have it set a minimum elevation, just using the perennial ice snow material definition. And I'll make it to 1850 and apply that. And now you can see that I have snow caps at the peak of that mountain. And I'm going to say OK to that. And so now let's start mapping our GIS features to material definitions. So I'm going to start with water here. So I have a water shapefile. And I'm going to enable this for PTP mode. And I've already had it selected here to map that to open water surface. So I hit OK. And we'll see that immediately show up in our 3D preview window. And then likewise, let me do this for a barren land area. This barren land area, I'm going to map it to a material that takes advantage of a slope definition. So it's going to, for anything that has a completely flat slope, it's going to use snow, while everything else will get mapped to a more rocky surface. And finally, let me enable forest, and I'm going to map that to a mixed forest material. Okay, we have that. And now so we have kind of a base scene, but now we can kind of tweak it even further by adjusting the configuration, and we can see the results almost instantaneously. So if I go to the configuration for mixed forest, and let's say we want to add some additional scatter models. So I'll go to the scatter settings, and we can see that we already have a number of models here, but I'm going to add thick grass. And now on each one of these models, I can control the density, so how often it's going to be scattered within this GIS polygonal area. And I can also adjust the scale values so that I can have them sort of randomly scale between the min and max. And there I have my grass. And now let me add one more. I'm going to add some flowers to the scene as well. So again, I'll set the density values and put some scaling on this so they're not all exactly the same size. Apply that, and now I have some nice flowers there too, which kind of flushes out that area. Now let's talk about the ground texture and how you can tweak that configuration. So if I go to this snow patch here, and this snow patch again showed up because the slope was low enough that it mapped it to the snow texture. And let me look at just the base imagery. You can see the base imagery, it's not a solid snow. It's really kind of broken up a little bit. And I want to try to match that a little bit. So I'll go to the material definition for the ice snow material. And I'm going to add an additional texture to the material. I'm going to add a rocks gray medium JPEG. And I can control how much this new texture should be applied to the final rendering. So there's a noise pattern that gets applied that you can configure so that we can kind of blend between the two. And there we kind of have it broken up a little bit, and that looks a little bit closer to what the imagery was saying is true. Finally, for this scene, why don't we add a couple rock models? We'll just add a couple big ones into the scene. And I'll just make them pretty large and put the density really low. And then from here, you can tweak your scene until you're pleased, and then use Conform's exporting features to put it into any sort of game engine format.